Hey everybody. Um, it's probably been a week and a half or so since I posted a video, so I just wanted to address something that seems to be a common issue, if you will. And it's not, I don't want to make this sound really bad. It's just because of ignorance. Um, Not everybody is a mechanically minded person. A lot of people just don't have mechanical aptitude. Um, So, what I'm going to talk about is uh, diesel engines. Um, I can't think of any offshore sailboat or catamaran that has a gas engine. Almost 98, 99% of them are diesel engines. Um, the older mechanical engines, like what I've got two older Volvo Penta 2003 non-turbo um, mechanical pump, mechanical high pressure pump. Um, Now, if you have a newer boat that is common rail, high pressure, while they're new, they're reliable. They do have their faults. The more computers and sensors you add to them, the more faults they're going to have. Whereas the older mechanicals, they're just cut, dry, plain and simple. Um, Now, the first thing that I want to talk about is oil. Okay, when it comes to a diesel engine, it is 100% imperative that they have good oil. And what I mean by good oil is synthetic. Do not run dinosaur oil in your diesel engine. Just, you don't do it. Dinosaur oil had its purpose at a certain time in history. Not no more. It's just you don't use them. Synthetic oil, pure synthetic. Um, Me personally, and this is not a paid advertisement or anything. I'm just telling you what I use. I use it's an oil called Driven. It's made by Joe Gibbs Racing, NASCAR team. Um, their oil, their 1540 oil, that's designed for basically big trucks or diesel engines. It has absolutely everything in it that your diesel engine needs and requires as a diesel in order to survive and run reliably and smoothly. Um, Now, it is expensive. It's like $52 a gallon, but um, it can be run longer than normal oil. Um, Now, having said all that, um, I want to back that up by saying that a typical oil filter, just like a car filter, only filters oil down to 33 to 35 microns. That's, you know, it's okay. I mean, it's not great by any means. Um, it serves a purpose. Um, Now, you can run what's called an oil bypass filtration system. I also run one. There's numerous brands. Amsoil has one. Um, excuse me. Uh, FS 2500, which is what I use. Um, they have one. Uh, there's several different brands. The FS 2500 that I use filters down to 2.5 microns versus 35 microns. It literally takes the carbon out of the oil. It will almost remove the color. Okay, it filters that good. Now, some people are like, oh, well, it takes away from your oil pressure. No, no, it don't. It might drop. It might drop by 2 to 5 psi, and 5 is really not very typical. It's like typically 2 to 3. I think when I first installed my system, it dropped about 3 psi. And what that is it's an external filter aside from your engine mounted filter. And what it does is the filter goes through your oil filter, your engine mounted oil filter. Okay, somewhere off of the engine there is a port that goes into your pressurized galley of your oil system. A line comes off of that, goes to the bypass system, and it feeds oil into that, and that's what filters it out. So it's not taking the oil pressure away from your oiling system, because a lot of engines now are main bearing, what they call priority main oiling, and then it goes from the bottom up and then runs back down. Okay, so your crankshaft bearings and your rod bearings are the first ones to see the oil. So having said that, that filter, you can change that bypass filter out on a sailboat. I change mine about typically about every 1,000 hours. And to be honest with you, it really doesn't need to be changed that soon. But I would rather have clean oil than take a chance. Here's another thing that really bothers me. Okay, if an engine doesn't see engine oil temperatures like 200 to 225 degrees, anytime your engine is sitting and it gets condensation in it, that water is getting into your oil. There's nothing to prevent it. Okay, now when an engine gets up to temperature 200 to 225 degrees, what's happening is that moisture from condensation or anything else is not being cooked off from the oil. It's actually getting into the oil and it's staying in the oil. So it's diluting to the oil by a very minute bit, but it's enough to potentially cause damage. And given the fact that engines in sailboats are constantly seeing cold water, the water doesn't have a chance to heat up, and neither does the oil. The oil doesn't have the chance or opportunity to heat up to 205 to 225 degrees to cook that condensation off. So because of that, that is one of the other reasons I really like the bypass filter, is because you can actually get filters that will take the moisture out. Now, having said all that about the oiling system, I'm going to move to the fuel side of this. Okay, so first and foremost, the number one on any boat. I don't give a care what boat it is. I don't care if it's a 1971 monohull or if it's a 2025 tri-hull with, some crazy efficient diesel engine in it. When it comes to your diesel fuel, if your fuel tanks do not have inspection hatches on them, like a 3-inch or 4-inch inspection way in them, you're setting yourself up for absolute disaster. And I'm going to explain why. Okay, there is something, and a lot of you probably already know this, there is something called a diesel bug. Okay, it's a bacteria that gets into diesel, and what it does is it eats diesel. When it does that, it creates a black sludge. Okay, that black sludge turns into a mold, and it will literally mold your whole tank. It'll mold your whole fuel system. So not only will your fuel tank turn into black sludge at the bottom, but your diesel fuel will turn black because of the mold and the algae in it. Okay, if that goes through your system, you are looking at a major, major, major bill. Okay, because number one, you've got to have your tanks pumped off. You've got to have your fuel system flushed. Everything has to be flushed in order to get that out of there. Okay, then you've got to put new fuel in. You've got to you have to put a biocide into your fuel system. You have to run that through, and then you have to pump that off again. So now all that fuel is completely going to waste, because all you're trying to do is clean the system at that point. Once you pump that all off, now you're going to put new fuel in again, and you're going to put the biocide in again, and you're going to run that fuel through your system. Okay, that can be prevented. That can be prevented by, number one, having that 3 or 4 inch access to your fuel tank so that you can see in there and you can get your arm in there, whatever the case may be. Now, I'm going to elaborate on that. I'm going to elaborate on what I just said. If your tank has a access point, 3 or 4 inch, and I'm going to give you some really good ones that do not leak, and I if they're put in correctly, I promise you they will not leak. By putting that access in, you can occasionally look in there, and the reason you want to do that is if you're a cruiser and you're hopping island to island, a lot of those islands, their tanks are not maintained the way they are here on the mainland in the United States or in other bigger countries, to where they have regulations on their fuel or regulations on their fuel tanks. Okay, so you have to have or carry biocide with you for your fuel. If you don't, you're setting yourself up for disaster. And I hate to see anybody get out, 200 miles offshore, and all of a sudden their engines start sputtering, spitting and sputtering, and then finally just die. And they can't figure out why. And it's because your fuel is filled with sludge and bacteria. Your engine can't burn it. Now it's plugged up your fuel filters. You see what I'm saying? Now, there is a company here in the United States. I'm not sure if they're in other countries or not, but I will check on that and get back to you. Polar Service Center. Okay, they deal with anything that's vessel related. And what I mean by vessel related, I mean like gas tankers, pneumatic tankers, rail car tankers, petrochemical, chemical, things of that nature. Okay, they sell those access ports. Okay, and they are liquid tight. They come with different types of seals, and they are liquid tight. They use them on chemical tankers, they use them on oil tankers, they use them on any kind of vessel you can think of, and they are liquid tight. But at the same time, all you got to do is flip a lever, pop the top open. You can stick your hand in there, stick a flashlight in there, look, whatever the case may be. If you need to pump it out, you can put a pump in and pump it out. Now, having said that, if you have a mechanical engine that has a high pressure mechanical pump on it and it's not common rail, okay, if you have one engine and you're running a Davco, get rid of the Davco. Just get rid of it and you can run an Air Dog, you can run a FASS system, it's FASS, low pressure. It has to be low pressure, and the reason I say that is because most of the older mechanical engines, the pump itself is the high pressure for the injectors. You don't want to feed high pressure into the high pressure pump. It has to be low pressure. So if you get a low pressure pump to pick your fuel up, what it'll do is, number one, it'll remove the air out of the fuel, which prevents and prolongs any issues with your injectors. It'll prolong the life of the injector because the injector's not seeing air between the seat when it opens and closes. So those systems will take the air out so that when they close, they're closing on a cushion of fuel instead of cushion of air. So the ticking that you're hearing a lot of that ticking will go away because that ticking is the injector snapping closed on a cushion of air. There's nothing to cushion it. Okay. Secondly, those very same systems take water out of the fuel. So it's a system that has two filters on it, one for fuel, one for water. The first one, that system takes the air out, pushes that fuel through that filter. It goes through the next filter. That filter pulls any water out, if there is any. That, in turn, pushes that fuel out. That goes to, in this case, you'll want to run it to a regulator, like a high performance regulator. You can regulate it to whatever pressure your engine or your engine's pump is recommended to see, like 7 pounds or 8 pounds pressure. I think mine's like 9 pounds, or I have it set at 9 pounds. Okay, so my fuel, it picks the fuel up out of my tank, goes through my air filter or fuel filter, takes the air out, pushes it through the filter, goes through the water filter. If there's any water in it, it pulls it out, pushes it out through that, goes through the regulator. Okay, the filter that goes through the regulator is pushed to my injector pump. Now, between my injector pump and my injectors, I have an on-off switch to shut the fuel off. Okay, and I'm going to explain why in a second. Okay, that in the on position, the fuel that comes off of that, or comes through the fuel regulator at 9 psi, is fed to the injectors. Any fuel that's not used by the injectors is pushed through the regulator and goes through a return line and goes right back into my fuel tank. Okay, now, and when it goes back in, it does get air in it, but the pump will take it out the next time it comes back through. That's what that pump is for, or that filter system is for. It's a pump, a lift pump, and a filtration system all in one unit. They're not cheap. They're about $400. But the benefit from that system is priceless. That's why I said get rid of the Davco and run one of those systems. Now, let's go back to what I said about the access point in your fuel tank. Also, I'm going to note what I said about the on-off valve between my brain fart, between my fuel system, or my pickup pump, and the injectors. Like I said, I've got a regulator in there with an on-off valve. Okay. You can also, with that system, you can polish your own fuel. Okay. Always keep extra filters on hand, but you can polish your own fuel system. And what I mean by that is you can go to that on-off valve between your regulator and your injector pump, shut that off. Now what'll happen is when you turn your ignition system on, that pump's going to come on. What it'll do is it'll consistently cycle fuel. The pump will pick it up, run it through the filter, run it through the water filter. It's going to run it through the regulator. It's going to realize that it can't go into the injectors or the pump. And because of that, it's automatically going to be kicked right back through the return line, through the regulator, because the pressure is going to be higher. So it's going to push it right back into the tank. So all you're doing is cycling your fuel. That's all it's doing, is making a big loop. If you go into that access point with, let's say, a 1 meter yardstick, like an old wooden yardstick, and you just stir your fuel while that pump is on, what you're doing is that system is going to pick up any debris or water or whatever the case is, because you're agitating the fuel that's in the tank. You're agitating, you're stirring it. It's going to pick it up and it's going to run it through the fuel filter system. It's going to take out the air, which is really not a necessity at this point. It's going to take out debris. It's going to take out water, and it's going to push it right back into the tank. Okay, so basically at the same time you're cleaning your tank, polishing the fuel, you're putting it right back into the tank. You do that for an hour every couple weeks, and you're polishing your fuel. Okay, when you're done, shut your ignition switch off, turn the switch back, or turn your valve back on between your regulator and your injector pump. Now the fuel can flow to the injectors again. This way, the next time you turn your key on, it's going to make that loop, and any fuel that doesn't go to the injectors is going to push through the regulator and back into the tank. You see what I'm saying? Okay, so now with these added systems, you're going to drastically cut down the possibility of causing yourself a lot of issues later down the road. And on the other end of it, your engine is going to run smoother. It's going to run quieter because there's no air or water going through your system. And your injectors are going to be quieter, and the engine's going to run smoother because there's no air going to the injectors. And I've said that like 4 times now. And your fuel efficiency is going to go up because there's not air in your fuel. The engine is only seeing the fuel coming through the injector and the air that's coming through the throttle body. That's the way it's supposed to run. Now, if you have a common rail system, it's the same thing. You're just going to use a high pressure pump because your common rail system has to have high pressure. So you need to contact these people and say, hey, this is my engine. This is the pressure that my engine needs to see, and they'll give you the correct filter system with the correct pressure. You still may have to run a regulator. I don't know. Depends on whether they have a fuel system that runs that particular pressure. And a lot of these systems are actually adjustable. Now, if you run up north or whatever, like up in Maine or up in that area or whatever the case is, or over in Alaska or whatever, they do make a heater. It's a heater element that goes into that filtration system. It just screws in. You put a 12 volt line to it, and it heats your fuel after it goes through the filters. It heats it before it pushes it to the engine. They're a great thing to have. So, having said all this, the goal of this video is really just to educate people on helping their diesel survive, because being in a sailboat is not the correct environment for a diesel engine. Like I said, they never get the opportunity to heat up because they're constantly being fed cool water, so they're always running below 180 degrees, and that's just not ideal temperature for a diesel engine. They need to run a lot hotter than that in order to cook off the condensation or any water that gets into the system or gets into your oil. So again, like I said, that's another reason that you need to make sure you're running really, really good oil, and you may even want to run the appropriate amount of Lucas oil additive for the capacity of oil that your engine holds. Don't overfill it. Just calculate all that out. But the goal here is to help that diesel engine survive and do its job reliably, efficiently, quietly, without having to deal with the moisture or an environment that is less than adequate for a diesel. So I hope this helps somebody. If anybody's got any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Please don't hesitate to hit the like button. This helps the video. It helps me. Otherwise, other people aren't going to see the video. And I feel like this information is really, really important for other cruisers or sailboat owners that are running diesel engines. They need to know this. Everybody needs to know this. And so, in the process of talking to your friends that own sailboats or talking to other cruisers, just ask them, hey, have you seen this video? Do you know all this information? If not, watch it, because it's got a lot of good information in it. If you have anything to add to it, please, shoot me a message and let me know. I'd love to hear from everybody. Anyway, I'm going to quit babbling. I'm going to go back to relaxing for a minute. It is at the end of the day, and I am still in my truck. I'll be home tomorrow I'm home now. But I've got to leave again tomorrow night I've got to deliver in Hendersonville Monday morning bright and early. And then I'll be home for Christmas. And then I'll be back down to the boat a week later. And I've got another boat of mine that I've got a guy coming to look at. So y'all have a blessed Christmas. Have a happy Christmas. Merry Christmas. Hopefully y'all get to spend it with family and friends. And hopefully I get to meet some of you on the water next year. Y'all have a blessed Christmas and have a great night. And I will see y'all later. Bye-bye.